face of the World Trade Center. It appears, at least from this vantage point, that something has hit it. Something has gone into the World Trade Center. I do not have that confirmed in any way, shape, or form, but there is a gash across, I would want to say, about 10 stories down from the top of the World Trade Center.
All right, Tom.
Sort of from right to left and making its way down. Yes, Jeff?
Okay, we're going to interrupt you here. We've found an eyewitness who's going to talk to us about what they see. Smoke at this point is billowing from that top eighth, let's say, of the one tower.
And now we've seen what it's like from the air in the word pictures of Tom Kaminski. What's it like on the ground here? We have an eyewitness who's called us, who is on the way to work, driving to the World Trade Center. Hello, sir? Yes, what are you seeing?
I see a gaping hole at the top of the World Trade Center, almost to the top, not quite up there. I wasn't looking at it as I was driving towards it. I just heard a huge explosion. It seemed like it blew out as opposed to something going into it. And I'm looking at it real close now. Obviously, I'm not going to get there, so I have to turn around somewhere here.
How far away are you right now?
I'm 4 blocks away looking right at it.
Can you see the smoke coming from that hole?
It's a huge hole. There are flames. There's smoke. There's smoke on the other. It looks like the impact was on the northbound side or something blew out on the northbound side. But I see smoke coming out on the southbound and the westbound side also. And it's the northbound tower that this happened in.
The North Tower is the one that's closer to Midtown.
Yes, that's right.
And where are you driving right now?
Well, I'm on West Street, so I'm looking right at it. I'm only 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
This is as far as I'm going to be able to go. I'm going to have to turn around somewhere.
All right.
WCBS
Thank you
News
for
time.
that.
8:52. Again, we're following as there is smoke coming from the World Trade Center, the top eighth of the North Tower. There's a gash apparently in the side of the building. And now, WCBS News time, 8:52. We have
breaking news on WCBS 880, right here, right now.
I believe if we can get in touch with him, we have a witness who saw what happened at the World Trade Center. M. David Levin, are you with us?
I am right here at the foot of the World Trade Center on the north side. Smoke is billowing out of the, I would say it's about 15 stories down from the top of the number 2, I believe it is, World Trade Center. Flames are coming out also. This apparently was a commuter plane that smashed into it with such force that the windows of the Pick-a-Bagel, in which I was just about to buy a bagel, smashed with a big bang. Everybody was very frightened, and it sounded like a fabulous explosion. And indeed, there is great devastation up there.
What happened to the commuter plane? It looks from what we're seeing that it might have actually gone through one side and out the other.
I can't see the south side of the building, but it could well have been. It hit with such force that the whole neighborhood really shook.
Well, Tom Kaminski may have a better view for us, David. He's in Chopper 880. What are you seeing now, Tom?
I think we can sort of confirm that at least to some degree. We are now looking at flames shooting out of the north side of number 1 World Trade Center, but there are at least some windows blown out and smoke billowing out of the opposite side. We have not been able to get to the south side of the building yet. We're sort of staying right here. We have a very good vantage point, so we're staying here for the time being. However, there is smoke billowing out of both sides, really of all 4 sides, it would appear, of World Trade Center Tower number 1. And as we've been saying, this is anywhere between 10 and 15 stories down from the top. Now, as you look at the World Trade Center, this is the building with the antenna on top of it. So there is quite a bit of flame now coming out of the north face of that building, and only smoke. I don't see any flame coming out of the other approaches, but I talked to our pilot, Arthur Anderson, and he says he did see something go into that building. We were at the George Washington Bridge and beginning to make our way south. I looked up and saw a fireball, but Arthur Anderson, my pilot, says that he certainly did see something right at that building, about 10 to 15 stories up.
Tom, stay with us for a minute, will you? We want to talk to WCBS producer Kelly Edwards on the ground. Of course, you can see the fire. Where are you?
I'm just about I'm just about 15 blocks north of the World Trade Center right now on 7th Avenue. Fire trucks are screaming down 7th Avenue trying to get to this fire. It looks like the fire is about 10 stories from the top of the building. Flames are shooting out. Smoke is pouring out. This gash goes from one side of the building practically all the way to the other. You can see thick black smoke pouring out of the front of the building, the north side. I can also see it coming out of the west side, and it's certainly coming off the entire top of the building right now. It's completely covered with smoke. You can barely see the top of the building. You can see flames shooting out of the east side of that gash. The gash seems to be getting bigger. I can now see flames coming out of the east and the west side of the gash. It seems like the windows are breaking as the fire moves down the building.
Well, we had heard earlier from one of the witnesses, M. David Levin, told us that the ground floor windows had been shaking, Kelly. Now, everybody we've been speaking with seems to have a vantage point of one side of the World Trade Center. We can tell you that at least two facades of the building have giant holes, at least 2 or 3 stories high in them. We don't know what's become of people inside or where that plane might have ended up. We're trying to find out the latest for you. Of course, we're very little in the way of details. Emergency crews are still on their way to the scene as of this point.
Stay with WCBS 880 because we are right on top of this for you with reporters on the way to the scene. Tom Kaminski is overhead giving us the bird's eye view and in fact was the first to tell us about it and see it.
Tom's been hovering around. Let's go to him right now up in Shopper 880. Tom.
All right, Jeff, back here with you. And we're trying to gather some information as to what type of plane this might have been into this area. I can tell you, as we are looking here at the north side, the north face of Tower Number 1, the gash that is in the building runs from about 10 stories up to about 15 stories, going from right to left, sloping to the left diagonally. Smoke is pouring out of that face, and now we have quite a bit of smoke and flame pouring out of the eastern side of Tower Number 1, and that also about 10 to 15 stories up. So it is our guess that whenever went into Tower Number 1 went into it and stayed there. We have not seen any evidence of any other fire on the south side of the World Trade Center. Tower Number 2, at least from our vantage point, appears to be unaffected. This appears to be entirely in Tower Number 1. But the impact point is almost certainly on the north side of Tower Number 1, about 15 stories up. We're just getting a look at the street. The traffic on West Street at this point is just beginning to come to a stop. That hasn't really happened yet. We are seeing some police and emergency crews beginning to make their way down West Street. Certainly this area is going to be not the place to be. I would want to say from about the area of Canal Street on down, at the very least, you really need to try and avoid driving in this area. And at this point, Jeff, that is all we have. We are still looking at smoke billowing out of Tower Number 1.
All right, Tom Kaminski will come back to us, and we have reporters Peter Haskell, Mary Gay Taylor on the way to the scene. Our producer Kelly Edwards on the ground, not far, has given us a good view from the ground, and Tom Kaminski will continue to give us a bird's eye view, and that's why you want to stay with us on WCBS 880. We've got you covered.
WCBS News Time 8:59. Let's give you a recap of what's transpired. We first saw this huge plume of smoke wafting up from the World Trade Center about, I'd say, 12 minutes ago, about 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. After that, thick black smoke began billowing from gashes in at least 2 sides of the building. Windows have been shattering. Some people, eyewitnesses we've spoke to on the air here at WCBS-AM in those top 10 or 15 floors of the North Tower, there was such an explosion that it made windows shake and break on the ground 100 stories below.
Joining us now on the line is an eyewitness who is in the Empire State Building. Bob Bradley, what do you see?
I saw this plane. It didn't look like it was out of control at all. It was a medium-sized body plane with engines on both sides just fly right into the building. I thought at first it was a shadow that was going to swoop over top of the building like we've seen in the past just sitting here in our office, but this plane headed directly for the building. And note, it didn't look like there was any trouble at all with the plane. It didn't swerve at all. It just landed directly in the building. It was almost like a gray-black color in nature on the plane.
It seemed as though it just flew right into the building without...
like he wanted to fly into the building.
He wasn't trying to avoid the building.
No. This guy swoops directly into the building.
All right, that's what it looked like from one vantage point.
That's from the Empire State Building. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Okay, also to speak with us now, people are checking in from all over, from the Village Penthouse. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but we'll find out. Carl Tendler is joining us. Where are you located?
I'm near Washington Square Park. I live in a penthouse which faces directly the two World Trade Center buildings.
Were you looking outside when this happened?
I heard noise overhead, and I got up to see what it was. It was a low-flying aircraft. It was about 150, 200 feet off my penthouse. He was flying straight ahead, and he pulled up a little bit and went into just hit the side of the World Trade Center. There was a huge flash. The aircraft looked like he was a DC-3. He was aluminum, no markings, aluminum, and he just flew right into the building. I still can't believe it.
All right, thank you very much. That's what you saw from north, right? That is
north of the Trade Center
in Washington Square.
All right, so we're hearing a couple of witnesses who said they saw a plane fly right into the building. Tom Kaminski in Chopper 880 back with us again.
And we are getting a look at the south side of the building, and certainly there is now that we can see severe damage even to the south side of this building, which is now beginning to make me question which angle this aircraft approached from. Most of the smoke is billowing up now to the south side of Tower number 1, so it's a little bit difficult to determine exactly the impact point. I can tell you that whatever internal sprinkler system there is at the World Trade Center has certainly been activated, because the smoke that we could see at the impact point is still very dark, but the smoke toward the top 10 to 15 floors of Tower number 1, that smoke is now white, and a lot of windows have been blown out on all 4 sides from about 15 to 20 stories up on Tower number 1. But certainly that smoke is now white in nature. So there are fire crews just screaming into this area from every conceivable direction. We're looking at crews flying down West Street currently into this area. We've noticed some coming across Canal Street, and just this entire area of Lower Manhattan is absolutely going to need to be avoided. For how long, there is absolutely no way to tell. Now, we've gotten to look at least 3 sides of Tower number 1, and that is the only building
it's exploding right now, Tommy. We're seeing another
apparently
plane.
That was another plane. We have a witness who we just spoke to a moment ago. We're hearing from Carl Tendler, who was at the Village Apartments in Washington Square. We're trying to bring him on the air.
All right,
that was a
Carl?
second plane that just blew?
Building number 1.
It's been another one, Carl.
Yes, he hit in building number 1.
The other building.
Yes, he flew right into it.
Describe exactly what you just saw,
yes,
please.
I saw this jet coming towards the building. He was low. He was about halfway up. And he flew into, it looked like the southeast corner of the building. So building number 2 is now burning.
So that's now either one plane or 2 planes flying into each building.
One aircraft that just hit the south corner. It looked like a twin-engine jet.
That is about what was described. What you described earlier, wasn't it? You who told us.
No, the first one was a DC-3 that hit the first building.
Okay, we're seeing it looks like some kind of sick confetti parade. There is debris flying out of that south tower.
We saw a burst of flames a moment ago, just before we talked with you.
That was the aircraft that just hit building number 1.
Okay, we're going to go back to Tom Kaminski and Chopper 880. It's been about
buildings.
20 minutes since the first explosion. The first plane flew into the North Tower.
Jeff,
Tom.
we have gone to the north side of the World Trade Center, so we were shielded from that. But just moments prior to that, we were getting a look at Tower number 1. That was unaffected. But as we were looking back, we did see a second explosion of some type in Tower number 1. So both of the towers of the World Trade Center are now affected. This second explosion has just happened. We're still looking at debris still raining down, and now from Tower number 2. My correction there. The second explosion just happened at Tower number 2. This is in the general area of where the first one was, but a bit farther down. I want to say maybe about 20 to possibly 25 stories down, and this would be on the northeast corner from what we can see of Tower number 1. So we now have both of the towers of the World Trade Center at this point in flames.
And there are some transmitters, of course, on top of one of those buildings, and that is affecting some of our broadcast friends right now.
Some of the TV stations are off the air at this point, so we will try to describe what we have for you. Tom Kaminski, just have to ask, do you have fuel enough to hang with this for a while?
We are actually going to refuel and be back with you. In fact, our plan is that we're going to do that right now so we can come back with you.
All right, thanks. Tom Kaminski, it's 9:05 on WCBS New York, and we are covering for you a couple of explosions. Planes have crashed into each of the towers of the World Trade Center just within the last few minutes.
I'll tell you what happened, what we saw. We were watching a television monitor. We were watching the smoke, the thick black smoke coming from the gaping holes in the North Tower. Tom Kaminski was on the air a few moments ago live, and suddenly the TVs went blank for a moment. They came back on with the pictures from the World Trade Center, and there was a second explosion into the other tower. A little bit lower, let's guess, 20 stories below the explosion point on the first tower. And again, people have seen two planes, one hitting each tower 20 minutes apart.
And I think another, we've had a lot of eyewitnesses calling us in who were able to see what happened. In fact, one of our listeners who called us at two different times, who said he saw each building get hit separately by two separate planes. Apparently, the first plane was a DC-3. The second plane is being described as a twin-engine plane that went into the second building just a few minutes later. People have been telling us that they don't believe that the plane had been trying to avoid the building. It almost looked as though it had intended to fly right into it.
All right, Tom Kaminski's still with us, so he has to refuel, but let's go up to Chopper 880.
What's happening now, Jeff, is that we've had all aircraft operations in and around this area of Lower Manhattan suspended entirely. LaGuardia Airport has said there are two confirmed aircraft into the World Trade Center, and they want no one at all in this area. They are, in effect, if you can possibly picture this, cordoning off the entire area around the World Trade Center and around Manhattan from at least Midtown on south. So we will be looking at this from a far distance and describing from what we could see, at least from the opposite side of the Hudson River. We don't know what sort of restrictions will be placed upon any aircraft in addition to this, but LaGuardia Airport confirming two aircraft into the World Trade Center, one into each tower. So they have requested that all aircraft leave the area immediately, so we are complying with that.
Thank you, Tom Kaminski. We appreciate everything you've done so far. We hope you'll be back with us shortly after catching a drink for the helicopter. One thing we have yet to discuss is the people inside the World Trade Center.
The business day had started. Plenty of people were likely in their offices when all this happened at about 9:15.
A 9:15 or so as people are coming in the elevators. Roughly 50,000 people, as we know, work at the World Trade Center complex. More than just the two buildings, there are many that are low-rises beneath. In those two towers, there are a tremendous number of people, and there are gaping holes and flames flying from some of the upper floors. We wish we could tell you exactly what was going on inside. We don't know if this is ominous or not. Certainly communications would be cut at a time like this. The transmitters atop the building have shut off some of the TV stations here in New York City. The question is, with no communication from inside the building, what has happened to the people on those upper floors? We haven't heard from any witnesses inside the World Trade Center.
Let's take a little listen now for a moment to CBS 2, which
Ladies and gentlemen,
back on the air.
it's hard to fathom another accident.
It's indescribable as to why any of this has happened. We can't put words in the FAA's mouth or any flight tower information, but you're seeing what we're seeing, and on what seemingly